Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we are going to tell you all about the top Impact Wrestling star who could be on their way to WWE.
A backstage update on how WWE sees The Fiend versus Randy Orton.
We got some more news and notes on Peacock editing controversial WWE Network content.
And also a backstage update on injury-enforced changes to WrestleMania 37. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Okay, let's kick things off by talking about the top-level Impact star, the former Impact Wrestling champion, who could be on their way to WWE. The person I'm talking about is Jordynne Grace, former Knockouts champion, one of the best wrestlers in that very, very good indeed Impact Knockouts division. Jordynne Grace is tremendous. That's what we're trying to say. But she's done an interview with the Wrestling Perspective podcast talking about her future. She revealed during this conversation that her contract with Impact expires in May. That is not long at all. And it sounds like she's keeping her options open, but she's describing going to WWE as her ultimate childhood dream, and says here that it still is. I'll just read a nice little quote here from Jordynne Grace. So WWE was, and I mean still is, my childhood dream for forever. But that was the only option back when I was growing up. Now it's like there are so many doors you can go through, and kind of they're all in front of you at the same time. It's a handoff. Like, I love the opportunity that Impact has given me, but obviously it's going to be a lot less money than WWE would give me if I were to go there. And they would give me a lot less input on my character. That's always the trade-off, right? When it comes to WWE, creative versus, other considerations. She continues and says, it depends on the situation. If I get older and I'm feeling like I need to be stacking some more money for retirement, you got a Scrooge McDuck, man. Then I think that's a place I would probably go. But she does continue a little bit here, saying she has no idea really what's going to happen. She could get offers from here, there, everywhere. I can't imagine Jordynne Grace will be short of suitors. She's been a great fit in Impact Wrestling. She was Knockouts champion for something like 180 days last year. She's had some great matches, in particular with Deonna Purrazzo since she came into the company, and hopefully we get one more from them before, if Grace decides to leave. But I think she'd be a benefit anywhere. She's great. She's a powerhouse style wrestler. She's got a great character, great personality. She's tremendous on Twitter. You should follow her if you want to see her roasting dweebs. It's very good. But she'd be great in AEW. She'd be great in NXT. She'd be great on the main roster. She's great in Impact. Jordynne Grace has a bright future ahead of her. Best of luck with whatever happens. And she's definitely going to be on WWE's radar. Definitely.
Yeah, exciting to see how this one plays out. But like you say, she'd be a fantastic addition wherever she ends up. And I can see where she's coming from. As much as people may say, you should always try and aim for like AEW because they're the hot promotion at the moment. Their women's division has got a lot better. We did a podcast last week, me and Sidgwick, saying how it's officially good now off the back of that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker match. But at the end of the day, WWE's women's division is exponentially better. They have so much talent across the board, from Raw, SmackDown, NXT. How they manage it is a different question. Yeah. And also, regardless of if the women's division was in the worst state possible, I'd like to think that you maybe would hope to be a catalyst for change wherever you decide to go. That's, part of your decision making. And also, I can completely understand if you grew up watching WWE, as much as it's gone off the rails in certain ways over the last few years, it's still WWE. It's still synonymous with wrestling. You ask non-wrestling people what wrestling is, and they will say WWE. It's shorthand. It's like UFC for MMA almost. So I can see her head in there. But like we say, wherever she ends up, we will keep you posted, and she will be a phenomenal addition to that roster. Right, let's move on and talk about the Fiend, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, because in WWE's eyes, Bray Wyatt is a babyface in his ongoing feud with Randy Orton. This was revealed by Twitter user @ZylotThemes, who claims to be a regular participant in WWE's Thunderdome crowds, and revealed that company officials called for, quote, big boos for Randy Orton during this week's main event segment on Raw. So yes, Andy Murray, I can understand where they're coming from here. Anyone up against Randy Orton's probably going to be a bit of a baby face, but the unkillable killer clown is the good guy.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the only babyface in this feud is the person who eventually makes it go the hell away. But there's things all over the place, right? Who's the babyface? Is it the guy who set this guy on fire at the pay-per-view and tried to do it again on Monday night? Is it the Hollywood monster movie horror villain murder clown guy who is burned to a crisp and could pass for a member of Slipknot these days? It's a really strange, unique dynamic with these guys. It's not like they're this really intricate, layered, deep tweener characters ever. It's every time I talk about this feud, I just get in trouble from commenters and stuff. So let's move on.
We all know the babyface in this feud is Ramblin' Rabbit. There we go. Let's move on.
There we are. The purest source of joy in the whole storyline canon. Bring back Wobbly Walrus. Anyway, Wobbly Walrus, he is not a Peacock, but you know what Peacock are doing? They are currently going through the process. This isn't a new story, but we've got some new details on it. They are currently going through the process of working through the WWE Network content that they have brought in as part of this $1 billion deal and editing out some of the stuff that the exact line here is stuff that doesn't align with the streaming platform's standards and practices. So there's a new report here from The Hollywood Reporter's Jim Hibbard, which I read immediately as Jim Halpert. Weird scenario going on in my head this morning. Jim and Pam, shout outs. But yeah, Peacock are going through this. They're actually hiring 3 new people to come through and work on WWE Network content. But we saw it earlier this week. Among the things that have been deleted so far include Vince McMahon dropping the N-bomb, which, should be deleted. And also Hulk Hogan, Jesus. Roddy Piper painting half of his face black at that WrestleMania to face Bad News Brown. So these things were noticed and picked up upon earlier on. We've had this report now from The Hollywood Reporter. The process to do this is going to take a long time. They have 17,000 hours of content to pick through. It's going to be a long process, and particularly if there are people doing this who don't necessarily know straight away. Oh yeah, the Mexicools are on that show. We should probably get rid of that. Kerwin White said, what? Okay, yeah. It's going to be a long process. Now, WWE have previously said that the whole archive will be uploaded to Peacock by SummerSlam in August. I'm very dubious of that. But look, this has been a hot button topic this week. Personally, I have no problem whatsoever with a company and a platform deciding, no, we do not want to host Vince McMahon dropping racial slurs on television on our platform. No, we don't want that at all. Get rid of it. And also, who is sitting there at home going, oh man, I really want to watch that segment where Roddy Piper was really racist. Who is sitting at home saying they want to watch that stuff? Get rid of it, put it in the bin, burn it down. But this is going to take a long time.
Yes, it's going to be a long, hard job, but someone's just going to have to get their head down and do it. That's what she said. A poor bastard who has to do all this. But yeah, interesting to see what's going to be left, and a bit of an update on that when we get to today's. And finally, let's conclude with an update from PW Insider regarding WrestleMania 37 and some plans that may well have changed due to injuries. You may well have been surprised, like myself, to see it be set up as The Miz versus Bad Bunny at WrestleMania 37 rather than The Miz and John Morrison versus Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. Well, PW Insider have updated us regarding that and just announced basically Priest and Morrison are suffering with minor injuries right now. They may well be back in time before WrestleMania, and it may well develop into a tag team match over the next couple of weeks. But as a precaution, they're starting it off as a singles match, and unless these two recover, it's going to stay that way. Sensible, Andy.
Yeah, it's kind of like you want to get Bad Bunny on the WrestleMania card, the other guys are injured, it'd be really rubbish if they just went, hey, Bad Bunny, you can team with R-Truth or something, and brought in another random person for the Miz to team with. This is, it makes more sense in storyline canon. A Bad Bunny singles match is a very interesting prospect. We'll see how that one goes, but he did throw a pretty good worked punch on Raw the other week, so hey, maybe it'll be good. I like these celebrity matches. I'm a fan of them, so
he's got a hell of a job to follow with, Pat McAfee and Shaq. But I've got faith, like you say. Threw a good punch. He looked great coming off the top rope at the Rumble, was it? I don't know. Time has no meaning anymore.
I think so.
And The Miz deserves credit as well. I think he can drag a great match out of most people. But it would be nice to see Damian Priest and especially John Morrison, for example, be part of that. But we'll keep you updated regarding those injuries as and when we find out more news about that. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE, of course. If you want to get in touch with us, first question today comes from Eddie Zamhari, who says, it's already a year since the first wrestling show without fully attending crowds. And since WrestleMania is the first road to a returning crowd, what is your favourite crowd chant or moments you can remember?
Oh, my favourite wrestling crowd moment ever. Now, I wasn't there, but the pop for Steve Austin when he returned, the old Stone Cold, returned to save the then WWF from the Alliance ahead of Invasion, that pay-per-view. It is played so perfectly, and the very foundations of the building feel like they're shaking through your TV screen as Steve Austin just hits the ring and kicks everyone's ass. It's quality, I love it.
Yeah, short and sweet from me. Literally any time people chanted "You suck at Kurt Angle," he responded to it perfectly, and we all did it at home. And if you were lucky enough to be there, you definitely did it in person. But yeah, I can't wait to have fans back. I was randomly stumbled across like a top 10 list from WWE, and the difference between like the bit, the show immediately after WrestleMania last year, where it's just silence and just you can hear every move being hit, and just like you say, the roof coming off places is stark to say the least. Right, Mark Smith gives us our second question of the day, saying, seeing as it's 20 years ago today, Shane McMahon turned up on Nitro. The obvious question is, what's your favourite Shane McMahon match?
Oh man, I'm very partial to a Shane McMahon stunt show. He's had a lot of really good ones over the years.
Yeah.
The AJ match was tremendous. The Kane match, some of the Kane stuff was interesting. The Kurt Angle one stands out. But my personal favourite is the Graveyard Dogs. Like, for some reason, that match just really clicked for me. I think it was the combination of going, oh no, The Undertaker sucks now, he can't wrestle, and oh wow, Shane McMahon is in this as well. And the whole thing just came together as this wonderful, perfectly scripted and presented sports entertainment fun fest. Like that closing sequence with Drew rising up behind The Undertaker, and you're like, oh no, don't do it, Drew, and he gets wiped out by Roman and all that. It's such a fun match, and I revisit it all the time because it's a riot, and Shane was really good in it as well. So there you go.
Maybe that should have been the Undertaker's retirement match. That was classic, to be fair. I wanted to say, I'm not sure if it was part of the match or the build, and I'm definitely not going to go back and check. When he got his bollocks electrocuted by Kane, that was a highlight for me. But I have to go for, and it's sort of cheating this, because it is a Shane match, and he does do some mad stuff. He does the coast to coast onto the bin. But any match that features Vince McMahon getting kicked in the dick by Linda McMahon is obviously going to be a pick for me. So yeah, Vince versus Shane at WrestleMania, obviously. But he's had a mixed bag over the years, let's say. Mainly just falling off stuff from a really high height. And that bit where he tried to kill himself in front of his kids was weird. Retro Gamer 89 gives us our final question of the day, saying, I've just signed up for the WWE Network again after having a break from it, and I'm looking for some classic gems to watch. I thought you might be the best team to ask for tips. So what do you reckon, Andy?
Oh man, so I have a theory, and my theory is that WCW is the greatest wrestling promotion of all time, primarily for the good and the bad. Both of them are excellent. The bad is so bad it's good, and the good is so good it's like some of the best wrestling ever. So with that in mind, I'm going to recommend you some good WCW. If you got the time, watch the entire Great American Bash 1989 pay-per-view. It is awesome. It is headlined by a tremendous Terry Funk versus Ric Flair match. Wrestle War 1992 as well. If you've only got time for the last 3 matches, watch the last 3 matches. One of my favourite 3 match stretches in pay-per-view history. There's a great Steiner Brothers tag match where they just drop their opponents on their head relentlessly, and probably the best War Games match of all time, featuring a tremendous performance from Steve Austin. It's good ass show, good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot you can look for on there. I just mentioned that one where RoboCop shows up as well, and I'm just going to say more recent stuff. I realise you say classic gems, but I'm going to ignore that because I talked about this the other day and it reminded me that I need to go back and watch it. It's sort of one of those matches I go back and watch on like a yearly basis. There's 2 regularly. Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls, NXT TakeOver New York. Literally my favourite match ever. And that mad NXT tag team ladder match that's got the Street Profits and the Forgotten Sons and Undisputed Era. It's my favourite ladder match. It's not a classic in terms of, it's not from years and years and years ago, but if you haven't seen it, I think it's a perfect ladder match, so go and check that out. I really do enjoy it, but I'm sure more people in the comments will suggest some fantastic classic matches from WCW and beyond to check out. Let's move on to today's and finally, and Andy mentioned Peacock editing stuff out earlier on. I just want to give a quick nod to the legend that is Lance Storm, who tweeted, "Hey Peacock, if you wanted to edit out any of my dancing gimmick from 2003, that'd be okay. I forgot about that, but now I've been completely remembered, and it was epic, Andy."
Yes, it was.
The replies from people saying, "We've still got the network, don't worry, we won't forget, mate." I love it. I think it's fantastic. If you're not following Lance Storm, follow him. He's a great guy to follow on Twitter. Right, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Daddy Boys previewing SmackDown later, and we've got Wrestle Culture with a hashtag Bloody Good Quiz. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for hip.
Yep. Follow me at follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Yep.